Okay, now I'm going to show you how to set up the template for the different thickness treads and risers, and I'm also going to show you how to set up the controls to do a box stair. So this is the type of template you're going to want to make. This is just going to represent the wood that you're actually going to use. So for instance, on your tread, 1-inch thick tread, you're going to take some 1-inch thick material. Your riser, this happens to be 3/4 inch, so you take some 3/4 inch material. The length doesn't have to be very long, just something that's comfortable to hold. Set up your nose dimension. This happens to be 1 inch. You can set it up for whatever you want, within reason. Of course, you don't want to go anything taller than 1.5 inches, longer than 1.5 inches. You set your wedges. You can have individual wedges for your treads and your rise. If you want a thicker wedge for your riser because you're using very skinny riser material, that's fine. We happen to be using the same material, same wedge for both sides. I believe that makes it easier for assembly. Set up the wedge location. It's something you're going to have to kind of play with to find out to get the correct adjustment as far as once the assemblers knock it in. If you want a tighter fit, leave the wedge sticking out further. If you want to get the wedge to actually recess past the edge of the tread, just put it flush or perhaps even below. Typically you're going to go somewhere between 5/8 and 1 inch, and that should make the wedge flush with the top of the tread once you knock it in that last hit. A lot of that also depends on how well you set your fence, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I go to do that here in a second. So that's your template. Now, to put that into the machine, or to adjust the machine for it, it goes back in here. And the way you make that adjustment, go ahead and turn the air off. You've got 4 nuts hanging down here. Just loosen these guys up. And if you know that you're going to be changing your nose location, you loosen this bolt up here, and that allows this fixture here to slide back and forth. Now in the previous video we were doing open stringers, so this was brought 7/6, actually 1/4 inch from the edge here, because we have 1/2 inch router bits in here. So it allowed, when the cutter to come by, it dropped into this nose 1/4 inch, which compensated for the radius of the tool. So when you put your risers into your stringer, you had you didn't have a corner that you were dealing with, because the corner was recessed by that extra cut. So because this template is set for 1 inch, we're going to set the distance from here to this fence to be 1 inch to allow for the template follower to drop in that 1 inch and give us a 1 inch cut in our stringer. So we just take this, we push those back, slide our template in there like that, bring the fences up against it as tight as you possibly can. The tighter you get them, the closer it's going to match your template. So if you just kind of put it in there loose, you're not going to get your desired finish. Get that kind of tight. So you can see it's just holding itself up there. It's a pretty good indication that you got it in there pretty good. And some guys will make marks on the inside fence, and they won't use a template like this. They'll just slide it up to the marks. That works. It's a little bit harder to keep it consistent, in my opinion, but if you have good marks and you can repeat that, then you should have pretty good consistency. So again, that just goes right in there. And that's how we set the inside fence. If you don't want to make any adjustments on the front fence, that's important to leave that alone. There's a lot of time spent in getting that perfectly 90 and in relation to the way this moves in and out and the fence and everything, so try not to mess with that. Once you have your nose set, you have to set the sensor relative to the nose. If you push it in, you can pretty much feel just with your finger that it's on the same plane when it retracts. There's a sensor on the back here. This sensor here, the sensor has to turn on. We'll turn the key on real quick here. So when this goes back, see the light comes on, and that's just that way we know that it's at the right location. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cycle it one time, but we're going to go over how to set it up for a box stair. Previously we had it doing opens, so an open stringer was 1A. Now we're going to do a box stair. We have two choices. We can do a double pass or single pass. The double pass allows us to do 3/4 inch deep and also a 3/8 deep. The 3/8 deep is just a base number. It's a mean. You can actually have 5/16 or 7/16, or you can have 1/2 inch. Just gives you an indication that once you go to from 3/8 or whatever dimension you have here to 3/4, you're making a jump of 3/8 of an inch. So if you were to turn this to 7/16, this would be 13/16. Okay, so we're going to do single pass because single pass is more of a production rate. It's a lot faster than double pass. It's going to be set to 3/8, and we're going to do code 3 because we're doing box B. So up here, this we're going to set to 3. This is going to be set to B. This is going to be set to 3/8 because we're doing single pass. This can be either one. We're going to leave it on 3 inch just because it's there. We're going to run both routers, although I have the switches turned off on the router so you don't hear them running, just so we can do the video. But you're going to have that on both. Your system air is on automatic. Your vacuum depends if you have one hooked up or not. And then your feed should always be an auto. We're going to run 3 continuous passes, and then the machine will shut down on its own. So again, we have to make sure we have a stringer in there. We're going to cheat the machine by just having this 2x4 here to activate our sensor, so the machine thinks it has a full stringer in there, but in actuality it's just looking at this one little 2x4 here. Turn the key on. We're going to hit start once. The clamp comes out. Now this clamp allows you, or the operator, to set the stringer up parallel with the fences. So if he has it on a long conveyor, the first time he hits clamp, it pushes it up against the fence, but it also allows him to take the time to make sure that once it does start to feed, it's going to feed parallel and straight with the fence. The second time we hit the start button is when it's going to plunge and actually start making the cut. So as you notice, it's going to traverse from the tread into the rise, and then made a nice smooth crisp turn there. The way to adjust that is this yellow bracket up here. This yellow bracket has this arm on the back which drops down into the path of the template follower. Depending where the edge of that actuator is what lets the machine know when to transition from tread to rise. So if the unit was too far back and the arm were to trip it prematurely, like so, it would just go back down again. If that happens, you turn this forward while you're pressing the stop button, and it'll start to bounce, and I'll demonstrate that here. So I'm pressing the start button, it's going back forward, and if I activate this trigger and I hold the start button, you'll see it bounces. So what you'd want to do then is you'd want to adjust this while you're holding the start button until it makes that turn. Go ahead and restart it. And that's important to get a nice clean cut on the back side of your stringer. A lot of times that's not a lot of time is spent on that because nobody sees it, but to make that transition smooth, you make this adjustment here. Now when it comes back, it's going to actuate that same trigger again, making the switch. And what that does is it energizes another valve which directs the fluid through the center flow control. The center flow control is your brake. The brake allows you to control how fast the cutter traverses from the front side of the riser to the bottom side of the nose, the part of the stair that can be visually seen by the customer. So we have the ability to slow that down and make that a nice clean cut for stain grade stairs. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let this stop in the corner there. I'm going to shut it down. And that concludes how to make adjustments to box stairs.